Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we took into account your desire of the board to have the millage drop down to 1.733 mils, and now there's going to be a series of on-the-fly new motions that are going to need to occur.
Okay.
So your first motion is going to be to transfer individual capital reserves totaling $593,721.52 to one unrestricted capital reserve account in an amount of the same amount of $593,721.52. So basically, we're taking all the small little unrestricted accounts and rolling them into just one unrestricted account. The restricted accounts, which includes interest, UGI road occupancy permit, recycling permit, a contribution for recharge, a contribution for Church Street improvements, contributions over the years to go to future signals, and money for Monter Miller Road are restricted funds that are not included in those numbers. All the rest of the funds in the capital reserve are unrestricted and can be spent any way the board wishes. The unrestricted reserves are parks of $87,357, highway equipment, I won't read the dollar amounts now, office equipment, Denver Road, highway projects, stormwater, pool, gardens, Act 537, zoning and planning, highway radios, highway building, and Colonel Howard grant money totaling the $593,721.52. So the motion again is to transfer individual capital reserve accounts totaling $593,721.52 to one unrestricted capital reserve account in the same amount.
Motion? I make the motion. No second?
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Second motion will be the transfer from capital reserve into the general fund, the amount of $118,240.
I'll make that motion. Go second.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, next motion, and this does all result in a zero balance budget, is to adopt resolution 2018-24, a resolution of the Township of Cocalico Township, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, fixing the tax rates for the year 2019. I'll skip the first paragraph. The second paragraph is the tax rate for general purposes, the sum of 1.733 mils. The rate of taxation in dollars and cents for each $1,000 of assessed valuation of taxable property is equal to $1.73. For street light purposes, the sum of $1 per frontage foot. For hydrant purposes, the sum of 0.12 mils. The rate of taxation in dollars and cents on each $1,000 of assessed valuation of taxable property is equal to $0.12. And it's worth noting that the street light tax and the hydrant tax are unchanged from last year.
Okay.
And then obviously the first one results in a 5.3% property tax increase.
Okay. Just a question, Scott. 1.773, is that correct?
1.733.
33. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Go ahead. I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
There was a lot of pending changes to the budget, and we will try and get that typed up tomorrow morning. This now does represent a zero balance budget after all the changes and adjustments have been made. The bottom line number is $5,818,555 of revenue, and the expenses are the same number, although I'm trying to find where I can read off of it.
Yellow.
Thank you. That's not the right page.
Yeah.
$5,818,550. So the revenue matches expenses for a $0 balanced budget. What the budget was showing before, for a matter of record, in case people understand, ask why we transferred the amount that we did for capital reserve, now $151,800, was with the tax increase that was previously proposed. there would have been a $40,000 surplus left in the budget. And so it was a net $40,000. Now it's a net $0 balanced budget. So with that, resolution numbers, you have resolution 2018-25 to adopt the 2019 budget. That'll be your motion.
I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Scott, can we have a brief overview here of what was cut, what wasn't here just recently?
In terms of major changes to the budget from,
Yes.
actually there's very little changes from the main budget from beginning of November. The only things that were adjusted was the healthcare changes that occurred with the Board of Supervisors. Resulted in a net decrease on that end. The other big change, which the chiefs know, there's chief,
Sorry.
was the revenue not coming from West Cocalico and Amstown. That was offset by the change in healthcare by the supervisors at that point. That did actually increase our net up to $40,000 before, which was originally $26,000.
You're talking about SRO there.
That's right. So those were the two biggest changes in the budget from the November budget.
Wasn't the school board making up that difference?
The school board went to 60%,
60%.
and a 40% offset by the others. So we looked at it and did it that way. Then Roberta's contribution and our contribution will cover the other 40%. I will say though that when Scott said that the budget since November hasn't changed a lot, I think that initial part from my end of things, we did do a lot to reduce any type of increases to the point where I believe that the police budget's only going up 2%, if I'm correct. There has been, as you saw on the list of bills, I am trying to get us to where we are not going to hopefully have to spend a lot of money next year. We're going to stay within budget, doing everything we possibly can to do that. But we're not going to be looking to purchase cars for quite a while and those type of things. So, you know, there's been a lot of work on it since November, October timeframe. So,
Well, I would commend you on that. Early on, when you had the projected budget with 12% increases, that was a little shocking.
I didn't think that was going to go that way, so we worked on it.
Yes, yes. Keeping it at 2% is a good thing.
Thank you.
So we adopted a 5.3% increase in the budget for next year. Tax increase.
As an overview, Mr. Fry, at Budget Workshop, it seemed like there was an agreement on the board of a 6.5 increase. Where?
I think it was 6.7, wasn't it?
Well, it actually is 6.5 increase in property tax revenue, but it results in a 5.3% property tax increase on the properties themselves. And that's because our assessed value of the township went up by over 1%, which realistically is actually kind of unheard of. Usually, when you do budgeting purposes, if you budget a 0.3% increase year-to-year for property tax, you know, that's realistic. But we had NHT coming on board, and we had WH come on board, major industrial properties that really helped out with assessed value, plus all the additional homes that Tony was talking about that have issued building permits and that come online over the year. We've actually had over 1% growth, background growth in property tax. So that's why there's the difference between the two.
Expansion of the base.
Yep.
Right.
It's really two items, the growth, which we're starting to see now, and we're going to continue to accelerate, as well as the reassessment.
It looks as though we're draining more reserves from on a year-to-year basis. Is that a conclusion that you're making too here, Scott, or?
I mean, the last 2 years, capital reserves have been drawn down.
Last year it was a big dollar figure, and once again here, how much longer can you keep doing that and without having a decent cushion there? Because that's to you, Mr. Fry.
I don't like doing this, but then I don't like a 12% tax increase either. So I'm afraid if we do the 12% or 14% tax increase, we're gonna stifle growth, and growth is helping us. So I'm thinking long on,
There's a strategic plan out there for a 4-year analysis right now. That's what we've been working on for the last 7 months.
And
And-
that's a little what I was remembering as well, and,
that's about 20% in 4 years, right?
So looking at that 4-year strategic analysis, if we stay on the growth path that we're on right now, if we stay on the projections that we have right now, we're not going to be drawing down those reserves.
And what's helping is the increased assessed value. That's helping. That base number has gone up. So, you know, you're now basing it off of a higher number. So, and that's going to continue to grow because of what's in the pipeline.
Wabash and Heather Woods and.
And
Other
Carriage
businesses
Hill.
moving in. You got Garden Spot Frame coming in, you know.
You'll have a learner there.
Right.
and when it,
Well, yeah, but still, it's better than what it was.
Yeah,
That's right.
but
And,
one of the important, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
And one of the important things to emphasize to the community here is, one of the things we've been talking about for months. East Cocalico is open for business. We're driving forward at full speed. So that's part of this 4-year projection and this 4-year plan that we have out there. And then as soon as we roll into January, sorry Elizabeth's here, but Scott, we're going to start working on 2022 to see how it all lines up. So again, we're open for business. We're not going to wait for anybody.
Thank you. Old business, gravel ordinance.
I would ask that if we table that, I will ask Mr. Brubaker to come to the next meeting.
Okay, he's not here
He's
tonight.
not here.
Sewer enforcement officer changes, SEO.
This is under new business, this would be action item under your first meeting in January, where we do reappointment. As we had talked about, our SEO will be going to consultant status and no longer be an employee of the township. I did work out with Dale High, and we have a very simple agreement there that you have for a draft. Basically documenting his verbal commitment to be a consultant, that all fees will be related to the fee schedule, and then setting his rate at $65 per hour, standards for billing, so that we can then pass the bill on to the appropriate permittee. The second sheet you have there is actual resolution that you adopt at that meeting. Dale and I worked with the fee schedule. We did borrow West Cocalico's fee schedule as a guide, and utilize that to kind of guide our fees and keep them reasonable at this point. And they're the same as West Cocalico, so we did drop a couple of things to make our fee schedule a little bit simpler to implement at this point. And then the third item is just a scope of work that has been agreed upon between the township and the SEO for just what the basic fees would be for this. We also, Dale did make us aware that next year would be his last year. So we will then be going through probably the RFP process mid-year next year to select a new SEO for 2020.
Just for informational purposes, the 65 that he's charging is a little high. We heard another township qualified young individual for 55. So that'd be something to look into for the following year, I suppose. But we might be giving a little more to Mr. High than what need be.
Manager's report.
Actually, I do not have a manager's report because quite frankly, I've been on a scramble drill for most of this week. But I do have something I want to show you that's been part of the scramble drill. So what we have here, once I get the screen reinitialized. This is our current website. So this is something that we've been working with Civics Plus. So this is what you guys are familiar with for the township. This is on Internet Explorer. Obviously, there's things kind of overlap, things that don't work, as we kind of found out. And also very hard to sell things like our help wanted for the part-time MS4 position, or there would be the draft budget. I told you, got guidance to you when we entered into Civics Plus that we were looking at East Hempfield's website as just a template to get them to give us a quote. They did a teleconference with us and presented us a series of different websites to look at. There was one website that really stood out that was similar to East Hempfield's, but it had been prepared by them last year. East Hempfield also has Civics Plus. And I really liked that website actually better than East Hempfield's. And I thought it was a really nice one. So this is the town of Rockland, Massachusetts. And this is how they have their websites. This is their homepage. They have a 3-picture format. Actually, there's 2 pictures here. We have something similar with our covered bridge, our township sign, and there was, I forget what was the third thing we were looking at, Lisa. Township sign, what was the third picture? Let's put you in the spot. But we have 3 pictures up here that we would be looking at. I do like, this is one of the things that's on the East Hempfield side that I really like, and this is a moving page where you can put news information up here. So we do a building closure or cancel meeting. Whenever somebody goes in, or if it's the home page, that would be, we would put this on dot number 1. That'd be the first thing that would pop out. That the meeting tonight has been canceled, or the building's been closed because of snow, or whatever critical information we want to get out to a resident, it's right there. Part of one of the neat things with Civic Plus is they have the ability, this group calls them Smart 911, but basically you have the ability to register email and cell phones for email and text alerts. So when we do close the building, or we do cancel a meeting, or we do have an incident that we need to report, or there's roadway flooding, wherever we want to communicate to residents, when they have signed up for that, there can be an alert that goes out. They just have to register. Obviously, we need to get information in order to do that, but that would be there. The menus are neat. This is called, what was that term again? It's a mega tab instead of the different traditional pull-down tabs where you got to follow them through. That's the way websites are typically going now. And if people prefer it that way, instead of having to try and navigate things, you have to be very efficient how you lay things out, but you lay them out and it just pops out when you pick on one. So it's a lot easier for people to navigate, to find information in a logical manner versus the way we currently do it here with Revise, where you click, click here, and then you click here again, and then you click here. Well, you might not know where these things are when you're multiple rounds down, and so of course you can spend a good part of the time just navigating, trying to find something. This is a much more intuitive way now to find information. Also, I like to have a resident and a business, which we can put very, very targeted, specific things related to residents and to business, including having an MS4 for residents and an MS4 for business in order to improve understanding as to what the new rules and regulations are. But it's a really neat feature here, so you can see what this town with 17,000 has in there. Online payments, so obviously we've started doing online payments too. Tax rates, if someone wants to move into the area and know what the tax rates are, list of schools. They do have a zoning page and stuff like that that's in that section. Another thing is what I would call these, they're almost like hotkeys. So these are your typically your most commonly selected items. So we would have police, we would have pool, Williamstown Pool and Parks, we would have the authority, we would have, what was it, fourth one? Tax collector. And then we would have things like contact us, forms and applications like that they have here. We'd also have one for minutes and agenda. The most common things that people, when they come to the website looking for, you put it there. So we'd have about 10 buttons to put the most common things that we would put up there versus what we currently have right now, which we're limited to these 4, which we put here. So that's what that would replace with what we got there. So another good way to communicate. This is one of the neat best features of all for improving communications. We could put any type of news we want to relay out to the residents here. So we talked about doing more white papers, news releases and stuff like that. This is where we go. We can put whatever we want, a notice we want to put out there. There's a rule change. Tony's having a whole bunch of zoning violations all occurring. We just want to go back out there and get the word out again. That's where we would put it. The goal of this website is to gradually replace our newsletter in reality, where people would start relying on this more than a newsletter at this point. So this is where we would put our news, articles, rules, any pool rules, stuff that we want to remind the residents about. So like in the wintertime, with plowing and stuff like that, this would be a place where we would put some of the guidelines for what we would expect when we're plowing streets. Another neat feature that I really like is having a calendar on the homepage and having what is at this point the upcoming meeting. So on theirs, they're having a meeting tonight for their CPAC monthly meeting, whatever that might be. So someone could click on that, and I would assume, well, we got no internet, so that's not gonna help. That's when they've done that. See if we get it back. Okay, good. So I would assume you would click on that, and it would pop up, and you could see the agenda, meeting minutes, and items like that. That would be what you would expect to see there. You can go in there, you can view all events and have a mega calendar pop up. But here you got the month of December, you highlight it, and it pulls up what all the meetings are, if there's a scheduled meeting. Then you got this, the how do I button. That's just kind of it has typically on there a lot of the most commonly selected sites on there. So that's the kind of the, you know, they actually, this website actually surveys some of the top sites that get selected, and you pop them in here. So this happens to be what this community has picked as some of their top selected websites, and so that's where the how do I is. And then of course it also has your typical search function to search anything on that within the website content. I think this would really bump up our communication at this point. So I was thinking in this area we would have news, we would contact us, and have a slew of contact information, probably have one for Stony Point Park Community Bill that we put here that would direct people to the Facebook page. On the police side, we would direct people to the police Facebook page. So with our 2 Facebook pages that we're currently having in the township, we can have our website directing them there, as well as the Facebook pages themselves directing people back to the website. So that's kind of it. There's obviously a lot to do. They have our website information. They're going to try and fit a square peg into a round hole to fit into this. But that's the start of it, and I just wanted to kind of roll that out. It's, like I said, it's similar to the East Hempfield website, but this is, I think, a lot slicker at this point than what East Hempfield has right now.
So what's their timeline? What's their lead time?
They're already starting it. They met.
So they're still targeting January?
It's going to depend. We're going to get approved, and then the key to rolling it out, it's not so much on them, it falls on us. We have to actually start populating information into the website.
Right.
So it's more driven by staff and our availability to populate it. So there we'll be working over this over Christmas, and then we will get our first crack of first drive on of it probably late first week of January, second week of January, and then I'll need board input on things you specifically would like to see on the website, plus get all the staff, get Tony's stuff on here, get stuff for our road crews, but it's certainly going to be a much better way to communicate, and it's cell phone and tablet friendly, which our current website does not work for cell phones or tablets. This will.
Scott, that's a 3-photo tab header that they're using, right? Okay, what I would like to do on the 3rd photo is think about, we should have the logo for our police department and our 3 fire departments on there.
I'll see what we can do.
as the header on there.
I'll see what we do. I was also thinking that we could, with our messages here, we could actually have one of these being a recruiting for fire and EMS. And have the 3 fire companies, and someone can click on that, get more information, how to volunteer and stuff like that. Get that from Chad and from.
A tab would be nice actually for emergency services, because we could fill that with a lot of things.
So I thought I could give you a tab even down here.
Yeah, I'm actually doing our website as we speak too.
Yeah, and actually link it to yours also.
Yeah, because then I just, yeah.
So what they have done here is they actually have they have fire and police in here. People are not going to necessarily find it there. And then I was thinking that we would have a tab here for fire and EMS with a promotional piece about volunteering, and then links to your websites, Facebook pages, and all those kind of things too.
And your camera for the helipad, right?
Still in progress, I'm waiting for the installation, but we're working on it. It's approved and paid for, we're waiting for the install.
I hear it's
Yes.
busy.
Hey, you had a bunch of landings out there, didn't you, Chad? You had some landings out there.
We're up to a dozen or 15 of them already.
All right.
Yeah, we did 3 the other night alone, like 9 hours, so yeah.
Okay, Scott?
The other thing is the newsletter, we talked about it, it's got to be delayed for a month. We are going to need from everybody by January 11th articles. The gate should be installed on December 27th, and then I'm going to get a picture and include that in the newsletter with explanations on the changes that are going to occur at the Woody Way site. We talked about possibly having a letter from the chairman talking about the 2018 and 2019, and then all the usual things that are going to be in the newsletter. But that will be targeting publication on January 21st, give or take, for the newsletter. And then, and I just updated the gate, so that concludes my management report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of the manager? Okay, public comment for non-agenda items, please state your name.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
I would just like to publicly discuss or correct something. I read the newspaper article today where it indicated that Denver Borough pays per call for the school. And that's not correct as it goes. We charge a straight fee, and that has changed a number of years ago, where we charge a straight fee for Denver Borough. And it's not based on a population or call volume as it was in the past. So I read the article today, and I just wanted to make it clear publicly that Denver Borough does not. I give them a report with the calls to the school because the borough manager and the council wishes for that, and that's included in my monthly report, but we do not submit a bill or get paid from Denver Borough for any calls at the school. Right, it was all part of the deal.
So I want to clarify that, because I wrote that. And I
Okay.
wrote it from what Blake Dahl said at the meeting Monday night. And so you're saying it's a straight fee, whether there's the same number of calls as they currently have or triple the volume.
Correct, and that goes
Okay.
for everything as it stands now with, I know in the past, many years ago, it used to be set up differently, but
I
now
can make
it's,
that revision.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Motion adjourned.
Well, just, Mr. Chair, real quick, an announcement, just because of the different date. The first meeting of the year, organizational meeting, will be held on Monday, January 7th, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. And also, just for everybody's record, although my calendar's probably not going to work here at this point, but the second January meeting is also at a different date. Because we're holding our first January meeting on January 7th, our second January meeting will not be January 17th, but it will be January 24th, so that we have 2 weeks separation between meetings. And that also happens to be a 5-week month, so we moved it back an extra week to get the separation.
And the 20th will be at 4.
And it'll be at 7 o'clock.
And it'll be at 7 o'clock on 4. The first organizational meeting is at 7:30, because that was the way it had been previously advertised.
Mr. Fry, for informational purposes, the YouTube video from the last meeting came up on a different day and makes it confusing to find it. Most of them come up with the date of the meeting, and this past one came up with the township logo and no dates. You had to click on to get further into it, and hopefully that confusion can be straightened out in the future.
That's the cloud. The cloud moved.
I'm never gonna be able to.
Was it a cloudy day then?
It was foggy that day.
It was foggy that day. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I make it.
I'll make the cloud makes that motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We adjourn. Thank you very much, everybody, and we wish you a
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Supervisors shall meet at a